Well folks, welcome back to the workshop. Today we're going to do another Makita day, a Makita repairathon. So good few Makita tools out on the shelves, so we'll see if we can get them all done in one go and see what can be fixed up. Starting off with this here Makita SDS drill. This is the DHR 242. The customer says it's starting and stopping. So it's just over a year old basically. Customer says it's starting and stopping. Test it with a bit and see what it does. That's an odd one. Never seen one do that before. Right, that's new. She's indeed starting and stopping, but only when she's actually hammering. So it might be a connection problem, hopefully, on the board on here. Could also be the battery, so check that connection first. No, they're okay. Nothing looks wrong there. Feel doesn't look burnt. Those connections look okay. It's tight, and that's tight. Sometimes you do get them coming loose there, but that's alright. Doesn't look burnt, but it is a slightly different colour. Ah, there we go. That is the stator. That is burnt. Look a bit closer, says you. See on top there, look. Mightn't be burnt black, but it has seen heat. A wee black speck there. That's the plastic from underneath here melting through. Yeah, the windings here have melted under the plastic. And you can see it melting over there too. So this has actually been getting very hot. So it is the stator. She's getting too hot, heating the copper, and the copper is now work hardened, increasing its resistance, which resists electricity going through it, so it takes no amps to run this here. So under no load, it's alright. The controller just thinks it's under somewhat of a load. When you drive it onto concrete, up on the load, but then the controller's realizing it's taking too much load, and she's starting and stopping it, thinking there's a problem, because this here is actually taking too much current to actually drive. So that needs to be replaced, and I hope I have one in stock. Luckily, you can just replace it on its own. You don't have to replace the controller as well. Look at that. And stock. Normally €30 for that. Sometimes it's easier to just bend these wires first to get them to match up. I would have done that way. So the leads would have been back this way. These are all marked as well. We color code, make sure you put them on right. Orange, white, and the clear one's the black. This should end up a nice wee simple fix. So get all this poked back down into place. There's a wee foam insert just to protect them very fine wires. The heavier ones then go on top. This has to be fitting in to those two slots, these two. Click that in. I'll also just stick that back in. Probably not important, but just in case. No, probably is important actually. This being a hammer drill, it's going to vibrate, and that'll stop the leads from vibrating off the actual plastic body. Foam will stop them from wearing through. Tuck those down. And we should be good to go. What caught me out the first time doing one of these is this thing here. That wee metal piece dropped out, didn't have a clue where it went to. So if you ever open one and you don't know where that goes, literally just drops in here. So it actually pushes up this wee connector. If you're hooking on an attachment onto this, just sits there. And that should get it running again. Oh, actually we need to stick this in first. Go ahead and close her up. It's amazing what these things can actually withstand now. That's where the Makita ones are handy, because you actually replace these parts on their own. Some people buy these for crazy amounts of work now. Just the other day somebody's asking me for one. They do a lot of drilling, using them for hours on end. But they just do not want a lead. They're looking to see what's the best SDS drill for the battery, instead of buying a corded machine. So a lot of people will just buy these for doing bits of everything now. They're good, but they're not going to replace a corded machine when you're using them all day. Even explaining to the man that you're going to have to buy about 10 batteries to keep the thing running all day long. Doesn't seem to faze him. Just wanted a cordless SDS drill. eventually recommended the 12 volt, twin battery, 36 volt Makita SDS roll instead. These here ones are good, but they're not going to do that kind of work. Obviously the brushless motor one as well. Right, so we're still doing that before. The question is, does she actually hammer now? Not good. No, it's still doing it. Must be something else. Only doing it when I rotate the drill certain ways. But it can do it in any position basically. Yes, it's the trigger itself. Actually, it could be the trigger or the battery thinner. It's still cool. Right, so we'll replace the battery thinner and the switch. Could be either or, just do the two. Hopefully it is just the switch, but the battery thinner only costs a couple of euro anyway, so just do the two, just to save opening it up again a second time. There's not much point in putting the old field stator back in again, because the other one was still melted. Whether it's at fault or not, it's still eventually going to fail, so we may as well just replace it now. Right, so this only costs like €2. And the switch only costs 27. Still more than I really want to be replacing on this. So it's not the switch, it's just that connector. There's the broken wire. Right. Do I fit the new switch or keep the old? Keep the old one. See if we can keep the cost down on this. If it's only that broken wire, the switch itself should be fine. Taking a chance though, because if it's not, I'm going to have to open this again and change out the switch. Either way, this is going to have to be a soldering job now. Solder these together, put a wee bit of heat shrink on them. that, I hope, will do the trick. Right, hopefully that does a better job. Well, that was an awkward start, but we got there in the end. Placed this field. Probably could have got away with it for another while, but there's not much point in leaving it on there now when it's starting to melt. Didn't need the new switch, only the wire had broken off, so that was actually starting and stopping it. That's her, ready to go. Next up is another SDS drill. This one's a DHR 243. This is the one with the changeable chuck on it. And she's clearly done quite a bit of work compared to the last one. This one's 2017. She's running, that's a good start. Got to read the delay and the speed there, but maybe not. Test right here. Tester, but somewhere where I don't already have a hole. Yeah, that has something to do with that trigger. It's a bit stuffed too. My trigger is working, but it's not going through all the speeds. It's just running on. Sometimes it's just going to full speed halfway down. Spot in the middle where it's not doing anything, so more than likely, hopefully, this one will be the trigger. Not the lead this time. Doesn't feel bad. Obviously it's not doing something right. That's the number there if you ever need to order one. 650709-0. And they're not all that expensive. €28 or something like that. It's a big connector for one wire. Hopefully that's it. Now, what's that like? Much better. Nice one. That's a handy wee fix. We'll just test it outside as well on the wall. I think that is good to go. Let's just change that cap because it's all tore up. Give it a quick wee clean down. There's why it's not working correctly. There's concrete inside. Give it a quick wee clean out as well. Should be a C-cup on that. It's made of the caps as well. To order them in. There you go. 940-9. One of these. So it actually holds on the plastic sleeve. So they must have had this off before. Never put the clip back on. So that ain't coming off on its own. That's that. And your rubber cap. That should run a lot better. Much better. Test this. That's her. Just the switch is all it was. At least we knew you had it in stock. A cheap enough wee fix for a Makita drill that's done quite a bit of work. That's her. Next up is another Makita SDS. Same again, DHR242. Same as the first one. This one, an actual problem. The chuck's actually going back and forth. The motor doesn't know what's going on here. So again, could be a stator or it could be a controller. A bit of rubbing going on there too. Doesn't look burnt anyway, not as anywhere as bad as the last one. And it doesn't look to be melting at all either. See, that pin looks a different colour. Could be just a connection. Yeah, might be. Yeah, that's definitely loose. These do have a tendency to become loose over time, or if they're getting heavily loaded or something. Just a little spring clip to actually remove them. Yeah, see there? Start to show without pulling everything out. A little bit of burning on the pin. It means that there's actually arcing across instead of making proper contact. Do I solder that on or just tighten the connection? Put a bit of solder onto it, chances. Probably not the best thing in the world to do. You would never need to replace the controller, because if that failed, you'd probably be just replacing the whole drill anyway. That would be quite expensive, but if you ever need to replace the stator, if you solder it on, it's going to make it more difficult to replace it in the future. But also wouldn't make it impossible. That one's there, okay. Right, solder that in place and hopefully that'll fix the problem. Now, obviously solder is not going to tick, or it's anyway burnt or anything, so just scrape off in the burnt bits, and the same down here. I'm not going to put on an awful lot. I'm just going to tin this a little bit first, and tin this, and then put the two together. Just going to get a tiny little bit of solder. Don't want a big massive blob on there. I'm also just going to tighten up that connector. Just a smidge. That might even be enough. We might get away with that. Leave it at that. I don't want to be putting on too much. Yeah. Chance that. There's still a chance the controller could also still be dead as well. That could be the actual problem. Could have got cooked, but we'll not know that till we run it. Now, she cured or is she dead? Look at that. Spot on. Just make sure she hammers. There's also something wrong with the chuck. It's not taking a bit. Always something else. Don't see any problem. Now it's working. It's just the fact that it's so dry. There's no grease in this at all. Stick a little bit on. We'll try again. It's meant to be the rubber first as well, then the metal flat washer. Nope, does not want to go. What is going on there? Guess we're going back in again. Yes, it is this plastic sleeve. It's just worn. Doesn't actually look like it's gone down far enough or something. Can't see any damage on it at all. Maybe it is. Still nothing. There's something funny going on here. Hold on now. This isn't going up far enough. This sleeve is not coming up far enough, look. And it's not the rubber cap. This should be coming up more. Something on this is wrong. Aha. Problem solved. Should have spotted this sooner. Somebody made a mistake, and then I just looked at the old part and repeated their mistake. Somebody's fitted the wrong sleeve on here, look. I should have spotted this sooner. It's actually quite obvious. Pull that off again. This is his old one. Parts written on it, look. 455393-4. So I just went ahead and got the exact same one. 455393-4. That's actually wrong. Should be this one here. 451533-2. That's actually quite obvious. Same sort of shape. They look the same. But this has actually got two flat spots, which is meant to go on to two flat spots on the chuck here. So this one's not meant to rotate. It's meant to just go straight down. That's the one it's meant to be. Should have known, because these here rubbers have the same thing, same flat spot. So that is in because it's not running. But yet this man must have had a hell of a time trying to get that bit in and out of that tool holder. And never once tried to get it fixed. Or maybe fixed it himself and just decided to live with it. Either way, sorted now. Flip that on, and that's much better. That's the way it's meant to be. It's a little washer over the top that actually holds on the cap. And the second spring holds on the washer. And seeing as I'm at it, I might as well put on a new cap as well, seeing as I have it out. And I'll finish it off nicely. Let's get rid of them. And now we can test her out. There we go, up and running again. That's lucky. That's 3 common faults with these here Makita cordless 18 volt SDS drills. They're probably the 3 most common one, and that's how you fix all 3 of them. Most risky looking one is that there soldering job on the controller. Sometimes it can be a loose lead, and it normally is a loose lead, but sometimes it can actually burn onto the controller and burn the controller out. So luckily this time controller's fine, just a soldering job. Plus a little chuck on the end of it. That's her, ready to go. Next up is we unpacked her. She's running. This is an older brushed one. I think it's the DTD 152. What's wrong with her? No, that's what's wrong. Bit stuck in the holder. It looks like someone's already tried to drill it out. The good news is it should be able to come out, because it is loose. You can see it moving there. So it shouldn't be too tight. Same as always, there's a little spring clip on here. Pop that out. Oh, catch the wee washer. Don't lose it because nothing else will fit. And you have 2 ball bearings, and then hopefully it's not too tight. It can just be pushed out. Little bendy one maybe. Poke her out. And grab a hold. There we go. One broken bit removed. And simply reassemble. It's a very, very common one, that, for impact drivers. Normally it's the magnetic holder that breaks. Where's that hole? Reassemble, reverse order, spring, then washer, and then spring clip to hold it down. That should be it. One working bit holder. That's her. Next up, it's a newer Makita impactor. Again, not sure the model. I think it's a 153. These things are getting plenty of use anyway. Did. Now there's a brushless one. Not sure the model or the year or anything. Right, get on and see what we can do. The light's coming on, so I'm not sure if it's a switch or not. Normally if the switch, you would get at least some sort of movement. Snug fit anyway. And she's seen plenty of water anyway. Just well rusted up. Wrong end I wanted to open there. That is in there. There we go. How much damage is done and what's gone. Don't know what to do with this one. The light through the controller or through the switch? Right, the controller. Don't know what to do here. This is in pretty bad shape. Right. Try one thing. The light is coming on, and the light is wired in through the controller, not the switch. So the light doesn't come on just as soon as you pull the switch. That's being registered by the controller, so we'll assume the controller is okay. The field could be gone as well, the stator, but I don't know. There's not much on it to go bad though, so I don't think the water is going to do that much damage to it. So I'll chance changing the switch. I'll see if it works. It's only €20 now. But even if this does work, there's still more problems on here. Look at the state of one there, look. Nothing but rust. You know, I don't even think I'm going to clean that out. So if this runs, it'll be a miracle. Instead, I'm just going to get a little bit of grease on here so we can actually move. And if a cheap repair gets it running, cheap switch, you might just leave it at that. Because this is just one of them machines. The more you look, the more you find. That'll do. See, the bearings in this are gone as well. Both of them. So you can't change this one. You can change this, which is a little worse, but you can't change that one. To do that one, you have to replace the rotor, which is a wee bit more expensive. I think it's about €30 or €40. The stator's only 20, and I think the switch is only 20. So them on their own would be worth changing. Just want to test the motor, see if the switch does anything. Nothing. Right. I'm gonna say this ain't worth fixing and just forget about it, because I end up putting too much money into this thing, and it's still going to end up being a worn out drill or a worn out impact driver. So just pull this out again and leave well enough alone. Sometimes you just got to know when to leave something alone. Even when I get this running, it's still not going to sound good. But in fairness, I think this man's got his money's worth out of it. Right, forget about that. This might be a simple one. Looks like it's just a bit stuck in the chuck. Yeah, a wee bit more to it, but still fairly simple. See that there's just brushes gone there. You must have been using that bit for a long time. For the brushes to actually wear out when it's still on there. More than likely it was just got fed up and the bit got stuck in the holder. I would say the brushes are going bad and he was starting and stopping, but then when the bit got jammed in and he couldn't get it out, probably got fed up. Thought I'd just drop it in, mightn't have been worth fixing or something maybe. That doesn't sound good. Right, take the butt out first. Yeah. So this gearbox could be faulty. Well, the chuck's kind of turning now. Sometimes they jam up with the butt in it. You can't shift them at all, but if you get the butt out they can sometimes work. This is now turning, but it's still not going to be any good. It's too tight. But at least we can open it to get the screw out. That screw's not even tight. So unless somebody's already had this out and attempted to change the chuck, before that we'll just test the motor. Not much point in stripping it and replacing the chuck and then putting the brushes in and realising the motor's burnt out or something. So test it now and it's easy before we do all the work. That's fine, nothing wrong there. Go ahead with this. Give that a quick clean out as well. And I'll just clean this quickly to start. And hopefully this will come off easy and go on even easier. with a wee break in that as well. There's actually nothing wrong with it. That's okay. It's just a bit slack because the bearing's out. Yeah, that'll be alright. Right, so on to lock the spindle. And a nice big Allen key. Hoping I can still tighten this chuck. Yeah. Tighten that on there and stick her in the vise. That's her. One new chuck. Now I'll let it go back as easily as it came out. Make sure I'm right here. That's the top and this is the top. That should be facing down. Should get away with that. Nice one. Hook on your selector lever. That's the gearbox ready. That one done nearly too smoothly. Did go on think it was going to be as easy as that. Normally there's some little thing that sticks, cause you dismantle or take longer to do it. It's nice when they go that smooth. There's a drill I still like as well. I know it's a brushed machine, but it's a heavy duty brushed one. And I still particularly like this one. They're quite reliable until somebody actually abuses it and burns the thing out. But when you use them to your limits, to within its limits, actually a good wee drill, and they last very, very well. Still nothing wrong with that one anyway. New chuck, new brushes, and she's good to go. That's the Makita DHP 458, and she's actually a 2020 machine, so it's not even all that old, but she's done enough work to run through a set of brushes anyway. That's her. Now, next up is a wee Unpactor. That's the DTD 152. The badge is all worn off it. Not going to be worth it. That's a switch. These things just aren't worth putting a switch into anymore now. You can buy these in most places for about €90. You even get them on Amazon for about €60 now. Brushes, they're not halfway worn, but they are still worn on. If you can buy it on Amazon for €60 and the switch is costing you €50, makes no sense to repair it. Everything's going brushless now. These are just going cheap because of the old drills. Wouldn't really be worth putting a switch onto it. In the past I have actually bought them in as a body only to rob them for parts. Done it with 2 or 3 of them. But it's mainly the switch you take out of them. You're left with everything else. There's very little else that goes actually wrong with them. The odd time you burn out a motor, the brushes are another thing you're actually getting any value out of, so can't do that anymore either. When they're gone, when the switch goes in them, now they're just not really worth fixing. 40 or 50 euro for the switch, then labour is the same price of actually just buying a new Unpactor. It wouldn't be a Makita day without a brushed Makita grinder. Cordless one. This is the GA 452. It's not old, 2021. Down on power. So I can nearly guess what that's going to be. Somebody's already tried and broken the cap. And that one's definitely broke. Right, give us a go. It's only a 2021, so I'd say it's probably not had the brush ring changed before. Looks dirtier, or worse than what it is. It's mainly just dirt. A little bit of burning dust because of these brushes. They're actually burnt into or melted into the holder. Part and parcel of a brushed grinder, cordless one. Cutting metal, all the metal filings, a lot of it gets stuck on the field because it is just a magnet. Get that wee clean down, get her ready, blow it with a compressor, and then this is the culprit. Don't lose that boyo. So this is the end bell, not the other way around as the actual brush holder. So what happens is, this being a grinder, most boys are cutting, doing a bit of heavy work. They always eventually go a wee bit too hard and use it for something that's not meant to be done. I've seen boys taking these on with grinding discs that have been diamond cup discs, the grinding ones. Have actually been using it to grind off old cement off a tiled wall. They've stripped the tiles off and they're grinding off the wall flat using one of these here. They always go too hard or push too hard, produces a lot of heat in the armature. The current going through here produces a lot of heat. The brushes get hot. They heat up the brass holders here, which isn't a problem, but the brass holder is held into plastic. So once it gets so hot, the plastic melts around the holder, but also melts into the brushes, jams the brushes solid. So it'll keep running for a little while, even after they've done the heavy work. Then a few days later, after so much time of running, the brushes don't then move down further. So eventually there becomes a gap between the brushes and the armature, starts losing power, spluttering and sparking, farting about, doing nothing, then eventually stops working completely. So to fix it, that's what you need. Brush holder, brushes, because they melt here, they normally melt the caps on as well, so you probably also need to replace plastic caps. These wee parts you can actually get on things like Amazon and AliExpress now as a little kit. They're that common. Very cheap to replace and well worth it. Now, this is a common repair. You can actually get all these here as a little kit, like I say, from like AliExpress and that, or you can buy them individually. That's the part number for the end bell, 638921-2. See, even if you type that onto Google, it'll come up with kit together somewhere. But you'll be needing that. You will need the caps and obviously the brushes. Now, this can happen several times over, depending on what way you're on the machine. If you're constantly dogging it, digging it in instead of letting the machine do the work, this can happen very easily on these here brushed machines. Once it happens once, you're increasing the resistance in the windings. This gets hot. Copper work hardens as it gets hot. If it work hardens, the resistance goes up. Higher resistance means it can produce more heat quicker. So every time you do this, it's going to happen again more easily the next time. So generally, whenever I'm doing them, once or twice is all the amount of times I'm going to actually do this to a single machine. Once even, if the armature gets damaged as well, if it looks burnt. If it looks burnt, I'll not even do this, but this one looks alright and it hasn't been done before. So we'll go ahead with this. But if I come in again, doesn't matter if it was in a week's time or in a year's time, you'd be more hesitant to actually do this repair. Because more than likely, the customer will then think it can do the same work again when it can't. So then it will come on again a lot more easily. But it's not an expensive repair. At 30 or 40 euro, gets us up and running again. Cheaper, obviously, if you're doing it yourself. Them leads just click in, wee spade connectors. The red goes to the side with the red lead on it. There's the wire, it just folds down in there. Out of the way. It's as simple and as easy to do. Click that in and put on your cover. It's all modular, separate wee components. The motor's then separate again and they all slide on together. So get this side done. And we just put the wee grommet on the other side, put the motor on, the head, brushes, and that's it. Make sure Put on this wee rubber end on it. That's just for the bearing. That's what's actually centering it inside of here. If you don't have that on, it's not going to run very well or for very long. And obviously put your head on whichever which way you like. You can rotate it around if you want. Kind of actually a good thing that these brush holders melt as easily, because it does give you a chance to repair them. If they were stronger, for the amount of times boys actually do melt these, if they didn't melt, they would just be burning out more armatures, to be honest. People just don't realise how much juice a cordless grinder actually sucks up. So if you get a dog in the cut and forcing the machine into it, thinking it's a corded machine, you're very easily going to burn it out. Now, shake that now. Sounds good. I'll also just replace them because this boy is actually crushed on little catches as well, so they're not going to stay on. But these are very cheap parts as well. Not necessarily needed, you can do without them. The only purpose of them is to stop you burning your fingers, because obviously you're holding the grinder right on the brushes, and if you are dogging it, and this can happen easily, this is going to melt. It just saves it melting on your finger. It just covers the brush cap so you can't actually burn yourself if you do destroy the motor. That's her. Ready for work. Now, this one looks like it might have been on before. Looks like one of our chucks. Now, this is only the cheap and cheerful Makita drill. DHP 482. Can't even see a year or a serial number on it. Same thing. Switch. Oh, maybe not. It has the brushes. It does. There's only a set of brushes needed. If it was the switch, it wouldn't be worth fixing, just like the other wee impactor. But it's still worth a set of brushes anyway. Like I say, these are one of the cheapest ones you can buy. You get another DC motor one that is even cheaper, but DC motor one, the motor runs slower, but they're actually a wee workhorse machine, just a wee working donkey. These here ones run faster, but they have a universal motor with an armature on it. It's one of the cheapest ones to do with a universal motor. But even still, decent brush holder on it. Because it's cheap, boys buy them for wild rough work, so they get dog's abuse. Generally, when they get old, if the switch goes like the wee 152, once the switch fails, they're not really worth fixing, because you can actually buy them so cheap. So they're worth it brushes though. But for a set of brushes, it's well worth fixing. Now, whenever these things first came out, they were even cheap when they first came out. You got a lot of them with the big Makita sets and that. But even body only, they were one of the best value ones to buy. When they first came out, to be honest, I wouldn't have been a fan of them, because they were cheap, everybody's buying them, and they were using them for wild rough work. Of course, a lot of them were coming in burnt out and different problems, and things all melted inside of them, so They didn't seem all that good at the beginning, but that was from the people abusing them. Go forward 2 or 3 years then, like a kitchen men that was actually buying them, or factories and that are using them for employees on production lines and whatnot. While other people who are actually using them correctly, then they started coming on for repair. The machines are actually working perfectly. They were just coming on for things like brushes or a chuck or something like that there. That was when you actually started seeing the ones that are cared for, used properly. You were actually seeing how long they were capable of running for. Now they're coming on, what, how many years later? Let's say this one's are probably 2018 or so. But you're getting them coming on 6 or 7 years later, still running. One's coming on getting their second or third set of brushes or a second chuck or something, and they're still working. So it turned out they weren't all that bad a drill if you were using them within their limits. See? Simple as that. One set of brushes for €8. Now, yeah, some new cordless stuff done. So I'll throw an oldie into the mix now. An old Makita 9-inch grinder. And this is old. What is she? The 609, the 9609B. 240 volt. No year on it. Back in the 90s or even 80s this thing's probably come from. Turns anyway. The gears don't sound bad. Right, sounds like bearings anyway. So I'll give this one a go. This might be worth fixing. Why won't that come off? Brushes aren't too bad. That one's gone actually. Brush spring is broken on that, so we'll need new brushes. As well, the guard's in good enough shape too. You can't actually get these anymore. So it's a good thing that still functions. Let's see if I can open it. It's not been opened in a while. Yeah, it hasn't been cleaned in a while anyway. This is just to stop anything falling into the gears if I have to open this up. Might not come out. somebody's cut this one. No, doesn't want to shift. There we go. Look like somebody's already cut it with a grinder or something. Cut a slot in the head. Not exactly square, mind you. I'll just remember to replace that one. Shouldn't be that tight. What's going on there? Ooh, look at that. A little bit of damage there, look. How did they manage that? Oh, that'll be how. Bearings are actually alright. It's not the bearings that's the problem. It's the fan. She's unbalanced. So whenever she's running, she's vibrating. That's what the problem is. The fan probably broke off. Caught the field there, look. Luckily it didn't break it. She smashed in a little bit, but it didn't actually cut through. So we still get away with that. Be surprised what a field can actually withstand, as long as it doesn't break the windings. Let's see if we can get a fan for this. This might be a very simple fix. It's not a bad one. Rid of that one as well. So them bearings are surprisingly enough still good. Not much grease in her, mind you. No problem. These things are very expensive to fill these things with grease. You want good gear grease on it, but it's a big cavity to fill. A lot of the times boys just put on a little bit, and that's what happens. It gets thrown over to one side and that's it. The big gear, it's not worn out completely, but it is worn. It's not very sharp yet, but they can become very badly worn. Generally, it's not the armature that fades in these things, that's the gears. They can be expensive to replace, so a set of them there might cost about €100. That's generally what puts these things out of commission. So I'm going to see if we can just do a cheap fix and get it running. Take that out. Remove the gear. That's sitting on a keyway. Now we have to press that out. Right, these here can sometimes be a real torture, a right pain in the head. Same as the last time, can't get the shaft out. This bearing's actually screwed onto the head. The armature's meant to just pull out or tap out even if you have to. But this thing ain't budging. Even if I put a hammer and punch on top, it ain't coming out. So the only way to get it out is to get these here screws out first. 3 screws are on the outside. If you can get them out and backed out, you can take off the bearing and the plate together and then remove it. But you can't do much here because obviously you can't support this and press anything down because the armature shaft is way in here. You have to do it at an angle. So this is just a pain in the head. And this is what you need if you ever do it. Doing one of these as skinny vice grips or long nose skinny ones. It's nearly better that one of them fan blades is broken off now. Get that on, clamp it, and slacken off the screw. And then you can very slowly start backing it out, quarter turn at a time. There certainly isn't a quicker way of doing it anyway, but it will allow you to get it out. Finally. Now we can use the bearing press to get that off. And give the shaft a light sand so it'll actually slide onto the next one. Bearing's actually alright though. No wonder it wasn't coming off, says you. That was tight. Now, we also need to press off this fan. Actually see if I have a replacement. Look at that. One new fan. Dust and everything. That's an old part there, and that took some searching to find that. Now, it's one thing to have it. That's another thing to replace it. These ain't like a normal armature or a modern one. They're not easy to press off. They're actually a steel ring on a steel shaft. And the inside of the actual fan, there's little rubs on it. So there's a press fit. This is pressed on tight to the armature. It's not like there's little clippers on you pull off. You have to press these things off. But obviously, if it was a new fan, you'd be bothered because you can't get anything underneath to actually press it off without damaging the rest of the fan. But obviously this one's not a problem. We can destroy this if we want. But if you need to take it off, get yourself a bearing, cut it in half, and then you can put your bearing in there, your outer race, and then put a plate on top of the bearing then to press this off. Bit awkward, but it can be done. That'll do. Nothing wrong with that. Seeing as I'm at it and I have it out, I may as well just change the bearings as well. Probably could get away with them, but may as well change them. Seeing as it's easy now. Hopefully this will actually work and be alright, because this could be a complete waste of time. Now, hopefully this does the job now. Fresh bearing on here. I've sanded this shaft in a little bit as well. Make sure it fits a bit better. It's a bit tight still. That's better. Now, obviously these bearings have been changed before. The screws tell everything. Heads are half worn out, or stripped out. Hopefully this still fits now. Ain't too tight. Don't hit too hard on this aluminium head. Make sure you're tapping back here because that'll break fairly easily, especially if we're hitting anything metal. That looks alright. The keyway isn't the right one, but a keyway is a keyway as long as it fits. Drop that on, put on your steel ring, and then your circlip to hold it together. Much better. I shouldn't need to do anything up in there, but I will put on a bit of extra grease. Might let the gears last a little bit longer. We'll see if we have any new screws. Not the right head, but it'll do the job. Same size of screw. On socket heads instead. Shouldn't come off anyway. Plenty of Loctite on them. Pretty sure these are actually a Bosch. Now the field I'm going to leave well enough alone. If I have to replace the field in this thing, it's definitely not going to be worth it. But at least now it should run a hell of a lot smoother. Them all on first. And tighten the rest up. Sounds good anyway. CB153s. These are only about €8. Now, hopefully, it sounds a good bit better. Nice one. A wee bit slow to start, but that is just the grease getting worked around inside the head. So that's her. One set of brushes, 2 new bearings, keeps her running, and a new fan gets her sounding a lot better, no longer unbalanced. Bearings are about €6 or €7 each, brushes are €8. I'll have to check up on the price of that fan. It's not going to be overly expensive, but it's not going to be as cheap as a modern one. Plus, don't think they're actually available anymore, so I'll have to go through some of the old sheets to see if I can find an old price for it, because even looking online doesn't give me any kind of an idea of a price. But probably around €20 or €30 maybe for that fan at the absolute most. But that's her. One old Makita 9609B, all ready for work again. It's not often you get big old grinders coming on for repair, but as you can see from the videos, you keep getting on these here Makita ones. They might be old with all the work done, but they were built really well and they can withstand quite a bit of work and abuse. So a lot of maintenance every once in a while. These things will outlast any modern machine. That's her.